You are now listening to the Bullseye Podcast, brought to you by AFI Advisors. Sit back, get comfy, and keep all arms and legs inside the vehicle when in motion. And now, here is Josh, Peter, and Brian.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bullseye Podcast, brought to you by AFI Advisors. My name is Josh Shores. I'm here with Peter Raber, and also a special guest, Mr. Tim Odom. Tim, thank you for joining us. I know that you were talking about watching some podcasts and maybe even being on some videos, but I think this is your first time podcast. Is that correct?
It is.
Yeah.
Certainly in an environment like this.
No pressure.
None whatsoever.
I'm going to jump right into it because we've got a bunch of things we want to talk about, especially while Tim's here. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your background, what you do, and some fun facts.
All right. Well, I've been in the automotive aftermarket, and we're talking about aftermarket means obviously not the OE channels, from auto parts to accessories. Since I was in high school, one day I was working at a grocery store, and a guy walked across the street from the parts store, and he said, "Would you like to earn 10 cents more an hour?" And I said, "Sure." And I was in high school. I started over there, worked there during college years, and then went into professional sales in the automotive aftermarket and then business management. And now I've been the president at AAM for over 22 years. So, during that time, I've transitioned from the traditional replacement auto parts world to the specialty side of the world. We are in the specialty automotive aftermarket. A lot of people know the SEMA show. So we're from the SEMA side of things. So basically, the products we sell were never on a vehicle from the factory. They're all accessories a consumer would add to enhance either their pleasure with the vehicle or with the utility of that vehicle.
So you're the person that I need to talk to, because I just got, a little while ago, my oldest, believe it or not, is now driving. So Henry took my car and I got a new car, new used car, and I hate my rear windshield or my rear view mirror anyway. And so I got very used to, Subaru had one of the, basically where the backup camera becomes your rear view mirror.
Yes.
And the Tundra has that ability, but with my particular model and whatnot, was not something through Toyota that was going to be easy. They wanted to disable the rear window that went up and down. And I was like, I stopped. I got down that process. But that's the one thing on my car that I miss.
We sell a product called Brand Motion, and Brand Motion is an OE connected supplier that makes that product. We can hook you up.
Look, you just made a sale.
Well, perhaps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been one of those things. I wasn't sure I was going to like that feature right out the gate. My wife's still not sure, but I absolutely love that. You can pile your car all the way to the roof and not worry about it, and still have that vision. As long as a raindrop doesn't get on the camera, you're good to go. So that's, I'll look into that for sure.
Or you have it mounted on your tailgate and the tailgate is down.
Right.
At which point it doesn't do you much good.
Yeah.
Tim, I'm really curious. What's a big purchase you've made recently that you feel like's absolutely worth it?
The worth it is the hard part.
Well, I want to say this. Tim told us he is very frugal. So
cheap.
Well, I didn't want to say cheap. I thought frugal was the more polite way to say it. So I'm very curious.
Responsible with money.
Yes, because we have someone, Brian here, he's very frugal. So I'm all the time trying to push his buttons to see what he'll actually cave and spend money on. So I'm just curious, Tim.
Well, worth is always relative, right? And I have been in the automotive aftermarket, again, all this time. And from my early days, one of my early jobs, I worked at Super Auto Parts in Elizabethton, and we built street rods in the back of the shop. And I always wanted a cool ride. But, through life, there's mortgages, there's getting kids through college, all those kind of things. And so I reach 60-ish, and I still have yet to do that. I have not bought my cool car. And there's a guy who has a TV series called Gears TV, Stacy David. And Stacy is a friend of mine. And Stacy told me he had this garage, really a barn find, Jeepster Commando, that he had gotten a hold of, and he was going to do a series of shoots on. What are you going to do with that, Stacy? He says, "Well, I'm going to sell it when I go through. Sign me up. It's mine. I want it." So I bought that Jeepster. And is it a good investment? I don't know, but my wife says we were high school sweethearts. She says that when we get in that ride around, I'm high school Tim again. So that's worth a lot.
That's worth a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very pro Jeep. I have a Jeep myself. I've had Jeeps pretty much my whole life. I've had several. I've destroyed a lot of them with foolishness. It sounds like you're smart enough to not do that. You probably know the ramifications of that. But yeah, I've tore Jeeps up pretty much my whole life. They're really expensive to fix, so now I don't do that anymore.
So was the Jeep kind of always that car in your mind,
Never.
or just
Never.
Okay.
No. So back in the day, we were building 32 and 33 Ford street rods, which was a big deal in the 70s and 80s. Over time, I really came to like sedan deliveries. If you remember those,
Yeah.
and those have gone out of fashion. But in our industry that I'm in today, truck accessories and Jeep accessories are a big part of what we do. And this particular car appealed to me because it's beautiful, but it only has about 8,900 actual miles on it. It's a 1967. So, and he gave me a great deal on it. So I was frugal, but I got a car that has, it's just really nice. It's a showpiece. I was privileged to show it in the center circle at the Jeep Invasion a couple weeks ago, and got a lot of.
I was going to ask if you made it over there.
Oh yeah, this is my second year in the center circle, and we also use it for. There's Four Wheeling for a Cure, which is a St. Jude. I work to collect money for St. Jude through the vehicle as well. So it's fun. We are a GPO, a group purchasing organization, and those models globally have changed from what they were years ago. Buying groups, which is what a GPO is, were often the primary function was just to aggregate purchasing, to negotiate contracts and pull all that together. Especially due to the internet and the dilution of the market, the ability to be a pure play buying group no longer exists. E-commerce is a pressure. But beyond that, we've had to become a very different organization. So today, we're the largest provider of technology for B2B and B2C websites in our industry. We're a large producer of video content. We have the largest number of video TV installations in stores in the country in our industry. So for us, staying ahead of changes in the marketplace and creating value is a very challenging thing. You're always trying to figure out. I'm a strategic thinker, so I'm always thinking about how do I take the next step to create value, and where do I come up with the money to do that? Because we're a functioning not-for-profit, as we're a member-owned co-op in a sense, so we function in a not-for-profit manner. So we call ourselves, our slogan is one league, one mission. We are a collaboration of distributors, our supplier partners, and the stores we sell to. We're very fortunate in that in the automotive aftermarket, there's been a lot of pressure. If you look at the independent auto parts store, I don't know, does Kingsport does it even have one today? I mean, they're very
independent,
rare.
Independent, no. I mean, you've got the O'Reillys and
Right.
the advanced auto, but not as far as I'm aware. Now, hopefully somebody's listening to this who's going to call in and say, yeah.
There may be, because
maybe.
I used to call on 10 or 12 when I was traveling in sales in this area. But those have fallen away. Automotive machine shops and other business we serve are on the decline, paint and body shops. But the number of shops that install accessories is actually on the climb. And not only that, but they're investing in their businesses, they're building new businesses, they're growing. So we're fortunate that side of the marketplace is thriving. One of the challenges of that business is it's often very small businesses, a lot of them not very technical, not very structured, often don't have succession plans.
Right.
Yeah. So they're very independent. Another pressure we talked about is private equity and its impact. The great thing is in a lot of industries, private equity is buying local businesses and they're bringing them together and changing them. In this case, these businesses are very diverse. So private equity hasn't figured out how to take all these, whether it's a camper top shop, a four-wheel drive shop, a spray and bed liner shop. They're so diverse and they're so built around that entrepreneur that drives the business that it's been very difficult for us for others to come in and try to aggregate them. So we're still serving a very independent market.
So even when they've been bought by private equity, you're still, especially during that transition, normally the owner is staying on and those relationships have the ability to withstand that to a certain extent. But I know we find in a lot of the situations we deal with, we might be managing a company's 401k plan, and a private equity group comes in and we're out immediately. It's going to, whether it's Fidelity or American Funds or whoever it is, just because they're not going to, I guess, allow for that many, one-off situations.
Right.
And so I would imagine if you've got businesses that are buying, eventually they try to figure out a way to consolidate that buying within their private equity to get economies of scale. But that would be very hard with the type of products that you're talking about.
And we've seen some attempt to consolidate the local brick and mortar shops, and that's not been successful. Primarily because often when that entrepreneur is ready to sell, they're ready to step out, and the ability to develop that same commitment level and somebody you hire off the street is very challenging. So where we're seeing private equity pressures is they're buying our suppliers.
Okay. And
they're consolidating suppliers. And that's where we're seeing a tremendous amount of pressure. Obviously, they're many times short-term visioned. They're looking for a 3 to 5 year window, EBITDA driven, less strategic, and more willing to create channel conflict.
Because they're going to be gone.
To drive short-term numbers. Right.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And you do see that all the time. And it's hard to separate the mindset from someone who's grown the business personally, and the business is so ingrained into who they are and what the business is, and have a third party come in and they're seeing dollar signs.
Right.
That's what they're trying to do. They're only there to make a profit. So a lot of your values and things that made the business tend to suffer from that.
And that doesn't mean those are bad people, obviously.
Sure.
One of the things that I learned to teach my people many years ago, I would use the Clark Kent example. I would tell them, I need you to put on this business. That when Clark Kent would get the cry, the cry for help, he didn't take off running. He stepped into the booth. He put on a new role and did that job in that new role. There are individuals that are in these organizations, private equity organizations, that have great educations, great experience, and great intent. But unfortunately, the framework for how they're measured for success doesn't allow them to put on the business in the way that entrepreneur did. And that entrepreneur was passionate about it. I have a conversation coming up within the next week. An organization I know has gone through a change in the past 2 years. The founder is still there, and it has totally changed the complexion of that business. A business that was aggressive, a business that was committed to growth, today is very cautious. It has changed the business in a negative way.
It's not Cracker Barrel, is it?
That is a good example of bad management of the situation.
I was like, holy cow, he's talking about Cracker Barrel.
Well, I think you see it within private equity. You see it in the public markets too. Yeah. CEOs are compensated on what their next quarter looks like. Yeah. And it takes a strong CEO to be able to look out and say, 2025 is going to be a bad numbers year. We're going to be fine. We're going to make plenty of money or whatever it is, but it's going to be down versus expectations because 2026, 2027 are going to be so, I guess, elevated. And it takes a very strong CEO. And that's one of the reasons when we're looking at public equities, I think the biggest example I could give, it would be somebody like Jamie Dimon for JP Morgan. Right. When he leaves JP Morgan eventually, that's too big of a void to, I don't care who he's trained. Warren Buffett, same type thing with Berkshire. You can't move past that. And so sometimes you get lucky. You have like Tim Cook for Steve Jobs. Clearly Disney did it badly when they went away from Bob Iger and had to come back to Bob Iger. Right. But you need somebody who's willing to put on the business, take it on, know what it's about, and manage it for the long term. Because short term, there's a lot of money. Unfortunately, there's just too much money to be made short term.
Right. I wouldn't want to be on the board of directors of those companies when those highly successful, highly driven individuals leave those organizations. Those are difficult positions to fill. Our relationship is we create a master contract, an overarching contract with brand partners, but our members still buy those products directly from that manufacturer underneath their contract. So we don't get involved in touching or paperwork movement on the product itself. So yeah, that's much simpler. The relationship between that distributor and the manufacturer remains in place. So we're not superseding that or stepping in. So we still have that the relationship development, which relationships are very important in the specialty automotive aftermarket. It's a smaller industry, so relationships still matter. That's one thing that's nice about our business. But in terms of logistics, you look at the industry right now and some of the challenges, we benefited tremendously from COVID. When 2020 rolled in and it was March and everything seemed to be chaos, like a lot of organizations, I furloughed several folks and we began to pare down and hunker down for a challenging year. By June, we were setting records. Consumers weren't taking vacations. They weren't traveling. They started taking those project vehicles that were in the garage, maybe that Jeep you had, Josh, and they began to work, and they started working on them. And so our industry moved at breakneck speed. We were looking at 40% growth through that time, out of discretionary product, and consumers had money to spend on discretionary products, so they were just buying like crazy.
I've heard people in the remodeling world of homes and stuff like that industry, they spiked there too because people were doing home projects, so they were buying, all the goods that they need for that.
The RV industry, the boating industry,
right.
A lot of recreational industries had the same. The power sports industry had power sports.
Yeah, ATVs you couldn't find. It was a really odd economy.
And you almost kind of feel bad saying that you had a great sales year during COVID. It feels like you should be, feel bad about that. But
people they needed that
they
too.
Yeah, it was therapeutic really almost.
Well, and that's just it. The products that we sell have two purposes. One is ego-driven, make you feel good about yourself. You can customize a vehicle. It differentiates who you are relative to other folks. But the other side of it is a lot of them are utilitarian. This vehicle has become more useful to me as a result of what I've put on it. So I talk about the event-driven purchase. I have a new girlfriend and she needs a step to get into my truck, or I've bought a jet ski and I want to pull it behind my vehicle. Those event-driven things drive sales and help people enjoy their vehicle.
Everyone's putting lights on the bottoms of their vehicles.
Not everyone.
You are
talking about all these accessories. I just think about.
I did see someone pull out a step stool for a female companion of some sort outside of a Target to get into a truck.
My Commando has one because I'm not going to put aftermarket steps on my Commando.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because you're working directly with the business who's then ultimately selling it to the consumer. Are they reflecting back a change in the consumer demographically, or who's consuming, I guess, in the auto world right now?
Right. That pickup in demand we experienced in 2020 remained strong through 2023. And we've seen a leveling off since that time. And today, because of investments manufacturers made, some tariff-related things, not a lot, we've had as much as 40% price increases in products and goods. So it has. We're now looking at a world where dollars are remaining fairly constant, but units are down significantly as a result. Consumer demand is softer than it was, but we're still looking at the same demographic. It's people that want to customize their vehicle or people want to use their vehicle. Although we're seeing businesses, fleets are really investing right now in building up fleet vehicles, and we benefit from that side of the market.
That sounds fun.
It is fun.
I mean, to me, I'm just going to say it. That sounds fun.
And we have a studio inside in the building, and we install those accessories and we shoot the video in-house. And it's fun to get to see all that go on. And it's also fun to see the challenges installers have with some of these aftermarket products because they are not high scale in terms of manufacturing. So sometimes the tolerances are not perfect. But what you expect with a fun project to install.
I use YouTube all the time to fix vehicles, home repairs. So I'm very appreciative of the how-to videos.
Yes.
Very.
And you can watch 3, and 2 of them might know what they're doing, 1 may not, and you hope you get the right one. I think there are 4 or 5 things that are driving price up in our industry. One is labor. Labor has gone up significantly. A lot of our products are still made in the United States, and so U.S. labor rates have gone up significantly. They tell us things like cartons, fiberboard, those kind of things have gone up. Raw materials, aluminum has gone up significantly. We use a lot of aluminum. In addition to that, manufacturers during that COVID spike made a lot of investments in additional production lines, operational efficiencies, and trying to recover some of those costs. And they've added more cost operations. But this year, we're seeing a strategy play out where brands are taking 2 different approaches related to tariffs. Some are going ahead and pricing in significant tariffs now, and we saw some of that begin as early as October of last year in anticipation. And then in other cases, we've got manufacturers that are saying, I'm not going to price in tariffs at all. I'm going to try and win market share. I was just on a call today with a consultant, and I was reviewing those numbers, and it appears that the brands that did not take price increases, hoping to win market share, didn't do it. They're holding their own, but their competitors are holding their own too. It seems the consumers are buying the brand they've chosen to buy in the past and remaining loyal to that brand.
The fundamentals for these companies have been oddly consistent with how volatile the news cycles have been. But anytime you have positive or negative tariff news, the market reacts positively or negatively. We've just recently had the one court strike down a whole bunch of the tariffs, and we'll see what that plays out, but then it gets stayed and so everybody's just in this back and forth. I know we've talked to some people who, I guess not necessarily the same industry, but they have a product that would be bought business to business, and their numbers are down just by their end sellers just waiting. And they're like, we've got the money, we could buy product X, we'll buy it at the same level that we bought it last year, but we don't need to buy it in June. We may wait on that decision until November just because of the uncertainty in the market.
Well, we're seeing in consumer trends for the past 30 days or so, we're seeing that the low-end consumer, the consumer that tends to have a less aggressive budget, is stepping out of the market quite a bit. That demand is off quite a bit. We're seeing the mid-level customer step up. We're seeing for instance, on the engine side of our business, we're seeing that $200, $300 engine kit sale going away, but we're seeing engine bills where we're talking about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of high performance parts. Those are still doing very well. So you're seeing some stratification of consumers. The low-end consumer is definitely more cautious right now. I think one of the challenges, when you talk about challenges for us, tariffs do cause some people to wonder what's going on, but channel conflict has been one of the greatest challenges we've got right now. Amazon and eBay are creating not only conflicts within brands and their own infrastructure as to how they handle those 2 different marketplaces, but we've got Chinese sellers that are coming in are just on Amazon, and they're knocking product off. They don't use the same name. It's not a counterfeit, but it certainly creates an environment where consumers don't know which product to trust. And maybe they make a purchase off of a product and they assume all the products in that category are similar, and they're not. And that's something we're talking about a lot in our industry right now, is this conflict and how reputable brands address what's going on.
Yeah, just the integrity of the product itself.
The product category.
Yeah.
It doesn't just affect that brand or that specific one product. It affects the category.
Right. That's a tough one. What'd you come up with?
Where's the crystal ball?
Right.
Well, I think Amazon doesn't do a good job. So I would imagine multiple industries lobbying back towards Amazon of identifying where the product is coming from and what it is. So I know, right out the gate, like I mentioned, I recently got the Tundra, and you go on and you look for accessories. And there's so many that it's really hard to tell, where they're coming from, quality, and I think Amazon has a big problem with their review system, which can be manipulated very heavily, because it used to be if you put in, 4.5 star Amazon review, you could have some confidence in it. I don't know that that's still the case. And so I would imagine those channel conflicts just keep getting worse.
Well, we went through a whole period where, I mean, people were essentially paying for positive reviews because they knew that's what was pushing the needle on their product. You know, and now that you've kind of damaged that territory, you can't even really rely on the reviews. You have to spend your time deciding, hey, does this look like a legitimate review? Is this how a normal person would talk? Is this salesy? It's it's a tough space to be in, but I think I don't know much about it, but I know it moves really fast. So I feel like I would always be behind in that world, trying to figure out what was coming next because all these new things. That's interesting, though. I've not really thought about it like that.
I did a presentation back in May to our suppliers, which I showed them screenshots where Amazon, we looked at categories that we sell, and Amazon has the products they recommend in this category. And what was really interesting is if you look at the Amazon recommendation, it's a combination of, I think, 3 things. One is price point, one is reviews, and the other is return rate. And yet we looked at the products they recommended for several categories, and we know most consumers don't want those products. As a matter of fact, in the area of truck bed covers, they were recommending a $300 roll-up vinyl truck bed cover, when the best-selling truck bed cover is around $1,200. Mm-hmm. But the Amazon model assumes the customer's greatest need is the lowest price, where we like to focus on the customer experience. We want to create the best possible experience. So the most important thing is, what do you need? What are you trying to accomplish? And the Amazon model doesn't address that side of a consumer experience, which again goes back to that. If the first time you bought that product on a place like Amazon, now you walk into a local store, you probably have a better understanding. I'm looking for a product that better meets my need.
Do you think there's going to be any challenges ahead because I'm thinking new vehicles come out, they typically, in my opinion, seem like they're harder to work on, they're harder to customize. You can't access as many things as you could before. Is that something that you guys are concerned about and looking toward? How do you fix that or get prepared for that?
Well, there are pros and cons to that concept. One of the things that has occurred since COVID is going into COVID, 51% of accessories were bought online. The number is actually declining as a percentage of sales, or was. Maybe this year might be changing that number a little bit. But one of the reasons is just that. Products are getting harder to install, and a younger demographic tends to be less inclined to be do-it-yourself. We're seeing that also in the auto parts world. So that's one factor that's benefiting the local shop. The other thing is things like what we call ADAS. So all your adaptive driving, your adaptive cruise, your collision avoidance, lane keeping, all those things can be tampered with or can be inoperative if you make if you don't know what you're doing when you're installing certain accessories. So that is driving people back to a shop, and they're also creating some concern getting into wiring systems that's much more complicated. It is driving people back to a local shop.
I know it's a night and day difference when I'm working on my 99G and my 2017 4Runner.
Yes.
Dramatic difference. And I've never had like a brand new vehicle, but I've seen some people recently with brand new vehicles, and there's so much happening on those things. And to me, the way my brain works, I see dollar signs, like this stuff's just going to tear up. It's going to tear up. All of these bells and whistles and but that's something I was just thinking about while we were sitting here, because I know that vehicles are getting harder and harder to work on, right, harder to access. And I don't know, do any of the vehicle companies kind of have a restriction on what suppliers can get only from them? Does that make sense? I'm thinking about programs in the vehicles, the electronic components, different programs, and is that stuff just accessible, or do you have to get that through?
Our industry is constantly in court with the OEs trying to get access to the computer system so we can
Computer systems, that's what
get
I was
access
trying
to the
to think of,
codes.
yeah.
It's not that we want to reflash or reprogram the vehicle, but the ability to understand what's going on with the vehicle can be important to us. For instance, we have amp steps. Is that electric step when you open the door, it comes out. The most advanced version of that taps into the ECU. So rather than having to tie into a wire or put magnets in place to try to understand when the door opens, the ECU knows because it turns the lights on. So that's the kind of thing we're working constantly to get that access to. And yes, the OEs try from time to time to limit that, and we have to go to court and fight that. Right, we call it right to repair when we argue, because that's part of that overall repairing and adding accessories.
Henry at 16 and driving, I've noticed very heavily, younger generation is not driving at the same rate. There's not that feeling of, I'm going to be at the DMV on the day that I turn 16 Absolutely. So that I can get my freedom. And I wonder how long-term you all are looking at that, of saying, we just have a consumer that is more disconnected from maybe what we've had for the last 5 years of, kids who grew up with, family members working on the car and that being integral to the identity, right, to moving to more of a, the car is what it is, commodity, and I have bad things to say about Tesla, but if it's just going to automatically drive me to where I want to go, and whatnot. How that looks long term.
Well, there was some concern about the EV market today. We're not that concerned about it. An EV would be a very difficult vehicle to accessorize much.
For sure.
Yes, we are aware of the fact that the younger marketplace, the younger demographic tends to be less involved in an automotive lifestyle. We've been working on that for a while, in the sense that we're, I don't want to say pulling out of that, but putting less dependence on that. There's also, though, simultaneously, a significant growth in the service industry side of things. The number of people that are on the road with a van or a truck that come to your house, work on your air conditioning or your plumbing, those kind of things. And so we're pivoting to support that industry with more sophisticated. If you now look inside those vans, there's whole systems inside that van that hold all different types of cargo.
Pretty unbelievable.
And so that's what we're doing, is we're looking at the demographic that won't change.
Well, and Tim and I work together at Northeast State, and that need for the skills-based, worker-driven apprenticeship. If you're a good plumber right now, you're in such demand that we can't get you out to the house, right, type thing. Same thing with HVAC technicians and everything. I would imagine all of that would, be a significant increase, because I know there's the demand on the consumer side to have those people come out.
Right.
And the things they're working on are getting also more technical, so they'll need more things within the fleet van to service that.
And they don't need a small, little compact, subcompact type vehicle. They're often moving repair parts, or in some cases, like HVAC, entire units. They need a vehicle that's capable of transporting something that's that's more commercial in its purpose. So we don't think we're not giving up on the youth. I would say that for sure. And I think we've seen typically, and even the generation before, younger people when in school often got mom and dad's handed down Accords and Civics and things of that nature, and then they would move into a pickup truck when they made their own purchase when they were in their late 20s. And we don't know if that demographic is going to change yet or not, because our ideal customers between their 30s and 55 range, the 20-year-old can't afford today's pickup truck at $65,000.
For sure. Well, and there's probably also, technology changes. We're not putting 6-disc changers into cars anymore and things like that. I remember my dad had one of his cars that we sold in his estate had the 6-disc changer in the trunk.
In the trunk.
Yeah, to preload the 6 discs, and then the control was up front. And I tried to explain that to Henry the other day. I was like, Spotify, type thing. Oh, yeah. The concept, it was just, what, you don't have, 17 CDs in your visor at the same time and whatnot. So yeah, I can imagine it's constantly shifting.
I used to, at one of my little side gigs, I hung 8 tracks under the dash of cars when I was in high school.
There you go.
Things have changed a lot.
A little bit.
Well, we're kind of finishing up here, but I do have one question for you. If you were doing anything other than what you're currently doing, what could you see that being?
I've never thought of that.
I usually don't either. That's why I'm curious of what other people think.
I believe I'm where God put me. I think I got to tell you, when I was in high school and I thought about all these different careers, I never thought I would be in the automotive. I used to help my dad do minor automotive stuff in the garage, and I hated it, to be honest with you. I'm all thumbs when it comes to being a mechanic. But so I don't reconsider that. I like serving people. And I think I would not thrive in a large corporate environment. I like being more strategic, more able to make things happen. And so if it were to be something, it would probably be something where I still had the ability to get my hands in a business and make something happen. I like working with people. I like training people. I like coaching and teaching. So get back to that, probably in some sort of smaller business where I could have an active role, but also be involved in developing people.
Well, it's a nice feeling to know that you're where you're supposed to be.
It is.
A lot of comfort that comes with that.
I've been very blessed in my career. I've developed a lot of people that have gone on to make large careers in our industry, to be contributors to the industry. And so I've been able to see, how I've been able to impact others' lives and the industry simultaneously. So I enjoy that.
Thank you for coming on, sharing your insights. It's one of those things that we love getting expert opinions, and clearly Tim's able to provide that. And it's always changing. If anything about your world and our world are similar, it's that you wake up the next day and things could be dramatically different. And it's important to be able to stay on top of those type things.
If you can't adapt, and if you don't have the vision to see where you might be able to adapt, if you're just sitting waiting for things to change around you, you don't have a future.
And it's getting faster. AI and everything else is just making everything significantly faster.
Right. But now we're going to do the episode about how we're using AI in our business, right? That comes next.
Yeah, we can do that.
That would absolutely love for you to come
we would
back
love
and
to
do that one.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We do use it in a lot of ways, but certainly we're not where some people could be. But it is. I mean, that's just one of those adaptations you make, and you try to start early and just figure out how these things work for a true business case, not just because just I can say I did it too.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, Tim, thank you. We really appreciate it. It's also an honor to, be the first official podcast that you've been on. So we'll try to make it something nice for you. We won't embarrass you.
Cut out anything you want to.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure being here, and I appreciate Peter you reaching out and inviting me.
Thank you
very much.
Setting in. I know there's a lot going on right now, so we appreciate your time, and we appreciate you all watching. Please go check us out at afiadvisors.com and follow us on all of our social channels to keep up with all the content we have going on. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Bullseye Podcast. Do you want to sponsor the show or maybe even be a guest? Contact us at connect@afiadvisors.com to get the conversation started. Thank you for all of the continued support.